Yep.
Good morning and welcome to the first stream for 2026. I hope everyone had a good Christmas. I want to talk about a couple of things today. The first thing I want to talk about is over the last few years, I've been asked one question multiple times by different people, and it's this: do you think we'll end up back in institutions? Do you think we'll lose our rights? And I've always said no, but I don't know. The last 12 months, I'm really starting to rethink that answer that I've given previously. We just don't know where we stand anymore, especially with the Albanese government. They were supposed to make all these changes because of fraud, and they've just used that as an excuse to cut people's funding to save money, so they look good to the electorate. Now, I read an article the other day saying that one third of people who had plan reviews, one third of these people who had plan reviews have had their funding cut by 22.5% on average. Now, is that servicing people with disabilities, or are they just bowing to public pressure? And I've said in the past that the NDIS is a privilege; it's not a right. We're lucky to have the NDIS. It's done a lot of great things, but it's been so badly run by the government. They've completely stuffed it up year after year after year. And now they're just whinging and whining about the money it's costing. Will people be forced to live in sills or SDAs? And I've got to say, yes, it's happening now. I read a report again just the other day where people who are on a package of $1 million plus, the service providers aren't letting them go. They want to leave the SILS housing. They won't let them. They choose to leave. That choice is being ignored by service providers. And according to this newspaper article, the government knows this is happening, but they're not doing anything about it. Why? Are our rights any less important than anybody else's? I mean, you look at the government, they vote on their own pay increase. They vote on how much they're going to get. They vote on the increase to their superannuation. We're not talking about a $5 an hour or $2 an hour increase. We're talking about $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year increase. Plus, they get all their freebies along the way, like free travel for their family because they work in Canberra. Now, I don't agree with it. If you choose that career and you've got to go to Canberra 2/3 of the year, that's your choice. That's your choice. That's not ours. That's like a salesman who travels around the state or in the country selling an item for a company. Do they get to have their families tow along at the cost of the company? No, they don't. That's their choice to work in that environment. And it's not like politicians don't earn a huge income, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. The superannuation contribution is huge. But people with disabilities can't leave a SEALS house if they choose to, or they can't change service providers if they're not happy. So what the hell's going on? What's happening to our rights? Are we giving them up as people with disabilities? Are we going to allow this to continue? You look at the NDIA, we have the NDIA board and the IAC. As far as I know, they're not allowed to talk to the public. But they're supposed to be our representatives. How can they represent us if we can't access them or they can't access us.
We've got a question from Mika who says, "What do you think about socialism?"
I had a question. What do I think about socialism? I think it's great to a point. Now, I've said in the past to my family and friends that Anthony Albanese is a true socialist. He has his own ideology and he does not give a bugger how it affects the country or how it affects people. Now, you look at the Bondi shooting, he's known for years the persecution that the Jewish people have faced. You know, that they've had to send their kids to school with bodyguards for God's sake. But Anthony Albanese was right back to year 2000. He was at a pro-Palestinian protest complaining about the Jewish Defence Force. And he's recognised Palestine as a state. Well, congratulations, Albanese. You've just legitimised Hamas. Now, for those people who don't remember this, and I've actually seen this on TV in my own two eyes back in the 80s, Hamas withheld medical, food, and water supplies from their own people. And when the trucks were being moved, the people who were starving to death or dying of thirst or dying of illness found out these trucks were in a certain area. So they went to that place. And what did Hamas do? Did they hand the food, water, and medicine supplies out? No, they didn't. They shot their own people, shot them down, killed them, women, children, and old people. This is what Albanese is standing up for, Hamas. Hamas wants two things: to get rid of Jewish people and money. And if you don't believe me, I'll give you another example. Yasser Arafat fought in the 6-Day War, which the Arabs lost against Israel. After that, Yasser Arafat started the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. Now, Yasser Arafat wasn't Palestinian, he was Egyptian. He came from a poor farming family. And he started the PLO. And when Yasser Arafat died in 2004 in Paris, he died a billionaire. His family was fighting for control of the money. So he went from a poor Egyptian family to being a billionaire as a terrorist. Does Albanese truly think, does this man who has a degree in political science think Hamas are going to give that up, the leaders of Hamas? No, they're not. Albanese's just supported Hamas by recognising Palestine. Would I like to see the conflict end in Palestine, between Palestine and Israel? Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. This has been going on since 1948. Now let's have a quick look at the Labor Party. When Kevin Rudd got in 2007, he introduced the BER, the Building Education Revolution, and the free insulation. Any house in Australia that didn't have insulation, he was providing it for free. And how many people, young teenagers, did that kill? Unlicensed, unexperienced people putting insulation in the roof. I don't know, it's about 8 teenagers died being electrocuted, climbing up in those attics in the roofs, installing insulation. Well thought out plan, Rudd. You're a terrific Prime Minister. I've always said, I think, in my opinion, Rudd was the worst Australian Prime Minister we've ever had. Albanese's overshot him dramatically, in my opinion. Albanese gets in, ignored the warnings to the Jewish people. And look what happened at Bondi last year. Now, the other true socialist, like Albanese, was Adolf Hitler. Not only did he murder 6 million Jewish people during the Second World War, he euthanized over 70,000 people with disabilities. He euthanized under the eugenics program, he euthanized the old people, people with genetic disorders. Hitler was a socialist. He had his own ideas on socialism, just like Albanese. So I do believe that people should be able to live a happy, fulfilling life, to go out to earn an income and be treated. Everyone pays the same amount in tax. Everyone's treated the same. That's what socialism is. But when you get true socialists like Albanese and Hitler, they push out their own ideology and they don't care who it hurts or how it hurts them. Those blood of the Jewish people that were murdered at Bondi, in my opinion, is truly on Albanese's shoulders. He was warned for years that this was going to happen. And when they wanted a royal commission, he said, no, 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 no. Why did he say no? Then do a backflip. Now let's go on past performance from every politician that's come into power and something's gone wrong. What's the first thing they do? They cover their own backsides. And that's exactly what Albanese done. He gave himself time to cover his own backside, because it came out that those two terrorists, ASIO knew they went to the Philippines, to those terrorist boot camps. And when they come back, ASIO knew they were licensed gun holders. They had weapons in their house, but they did nothing about it. Then all those people, that young girl, Matilda, shot dead. An old man who survived Auschwitz in the Second World War, shot, killed. Albanese, in my opinion, is nothing but a disgusting human being. He's come out with his green energy ideology. Yes, we need to look after the environment, but at what cost? People can't afford to pay for electricity and pay insurances and pay for education and pay for health. I remember when Medicare first came out in the 1970s, when Gough Whitlam brought it in. You could walk into any doctors in Australia, whether a GP or a specialist, and not pay a cent. In my opinion, Gough Whitlam, the Labor Prime Minister, is one of the best Prime Ministers we've ever had in this country. But Albanese has his own ideology. He wants to do green energy for Australia. We just don't have the infrastructure for it. The technology is just not there. The cost of electricity has gone up 40% since he's been in power. And how's that affected people? Well, businesses are closed down because they can't afford to run their businesses. Manufacturing is not existent in this country because of electricity. Why can't we just phase this in gradually? Why do we have to jump in both feet? The cost of living is so damn high because of electricity. The price of manufacturing goes up, so the price goes up to the customer. And our wages stay the same. So, yes, even though I do believe in socialism, I think it's great. A capitalist socialist country is what we live in, but there's got to be a limit to it. We can't put more pressure on families just because Albanese wants green energy, you know, just because he has his own ideology. He doesn't care what it does to the country or who it hurts. You know, if I could bitch slap that mongrel, I would. The NDIS, and I've said this so many times over the years, the trial period wasn't long enough and it wasn't wide enough. It was rushed out. And everyone says it's like building a plane while you're trying to fly it. What a bad way to phrase it. The NDIS has been the best thing for people with disabilities ever. But we're losing our choice and control. It's not people with disabilities are doing the wrong thing. Yes, some people, I think, I would say around 1% of people on the NDIS are doing the wrong thing. But what the government's doing now to it is undermining all the great work and all the stuff the excellent stuff that is brought to people with disabilities. They're just ruining it. I think one of the biggest problems was when the NDIS was rolled out, every state government forced all their state operated disability services, they forced them all onto the NDIS and shut those services down. So they've had no other option to put them on the NDIS. Do I believe everyone who's on the NDIS should be there? No, I don't. But what are they supposed to do now? There's no state services. Where are they supposed to go? They need help. You know, it's not just the Labor Party has done this, but the coalition's done it as well. It's just been so badly mismanaged by the government, but they're quite happy to spin the rhetoric and blame people with disabilities. You know, these politicians remind me of a child that does something wrong, and the parents see them do something wrong, but they deny it. No, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. And I think every person in this country is so sick of the Labor government and so sick of the coalition just continually spewing out lie after lie after lie, deliberately misrepresenting the truth and putting a spin on it to deflect from their own stupidity and their own mistakes and blame it on people they shouldn't be blaming it on. And people are getting sick of it. Now, just after the shooting in Bondi, I said to my wife and said to my friends, you watch One Nation jump up in the polls now because the people in this country have had a gutful of the lies and deception and the spin that the government puts onto everyone and everything. They're going to keep treating us like idiots and incompetents if we continue to allow this to happen. Now, I'm not sure if people have read that book 1984 or seen the movie with Big Brother, where they tell everyone what they have to wear, what they eat, when they eat, the days that they work, the hours that they work, what jobs that they can have. We're going down that road, everyone. We are heading down that road now. We are allowing our government that dictate everything to us. What we can and can't do, what we can and can't have, how we should and shouldn't do things, what we do and don't need as far as medical, dental, or optical, or education. They're going to tell us soon what we can and can't have as a job, as a vocation, what we can and can't do as recreation. We are heading down that road now. If you don't believe me, look at Trump, what he did to Venezuela, what he wants to do to Greenland. He wants Canada, for God's sake. He put a thing up this morning with a map of the United States with a big flag on it, and a big United States flag over Canada, and a big United States flag over Greenland. How is Trump any different to Putin? What Putin's doing to the Ukraine? And I'm telling you now, you watch. China's been wanting Taiwan for decades. They're going to go into Taiwan this year, and they're going to turn around and say, look what Trump did to Venezuela. Look what Trump's doing to Greenland. So they're going to use that as a green light to invade Taiwan, sorry. Then they're going to have complete and utter control of the world's computer chips. Can you imagine what it's going to be like? Now, I've got documentation here that I shouldn't have. When the government put up CCTV cameras in the NDIA office, bought them, installed them, then took them down because the Chinese could hack them quite easily. Can you imagine what it's going to be like when the Chinese get their hands on Taiwan and they can put whatever they want on those chips, and they could have Trojan horses in every computer, every tablet, every television, every phone, smartphone, everything that has a computer chip in it, they're going to have access to. Now, if China want to invade Australia, they wouldn't have to set one foot in this country. All they would need to do is hack their bloody solar panels and turn them all off. Because just about every solar panel in this country is made in China. So they turn the power off to every solar panel in this country. What happens? We then rely on the electrical grid, which is so far behind date that we're just going to have brownouts right around the country. And what happens if there's no power? No telecommunications. No way to transport. No way to get fuel around to the country. People will run out of electricity. People will run out of fuel. We won't be able to run hospitals and schools and dentists. We'll be able to run the government. Now, last year when the third highest Chinese person in the Chinese government come to Australia, the government told everyone to turn their phones off and computers off because they're worrying about being hacked. Great leadership. Albanese needs to go. We need to be standing up to the government. We need to be asserting and standing up for our rights as people with disabilities. We shouldn't let the government be telling us what we can and can't do. We don't work for them. They work for us. Now, I know every person with a disability in this country who solely survives on the disability pension. Can we vote to increase our pension? No. But can politicians vote to increase their wages? Yes. How dare those slugs in Canberra tell me what I can and can't do, or tell anyone what they can and can't do? When Bondi happened last year, I said to my wife and my family and friends, "You wait, there's going to be this huge knee-jerk reaction because they didn't do enough when they were warned." And that's exactly what's happened with the hate speech. They dropped the revamped legislation on the desk of all the senators in the upper and lower house. 7 o'clock yesterday morning, and it sat till 11 p.m. last night to get it through. 500-page document. They're supposed to read it and understand it within a couple of hours from 7 a.m. yesterday morning. How is that fair? It's like the NDIS when they make these changes. They don't announce the changes till about 2 days before, and it doesn't give anybody any time to research it. And by that time, it's too late. The changes have been made. It's too late for us to do anything about it. It's definitely given us, 3-6 months warning of what's going to change and how it's going to change and why it's being changed. We're given 1 or 2 days. How is that fair? Now, the NDIA board and the IAC is supposed to be our representatives. Has anyone ever spoke to them in an official capacity? I've reached out and I've sent out request after request after request to talk to someone from the IAC or the NDIA board. Not one response. I've probably sent well over a dozen requests to the IAC, not one response. So how can they truly represent us if we can't access them and talk to them? They're appointed there by the government. So they only appoint yes men and lick spittles to those positions to do whatever what the government wants. When is we, people with disabilities, are going to stop this from happening? When are we going to have our own true representatives to the NDIA? Maybe we should start some sort of organisation that we can elect to be our representatives to go to the NDIA and go to Canberra and say, this is what's happening. This is how your decisions are impacting us. But we can't have that with the IAC and the NDIA board because they're appointed by the government. So we don't have any representatives at all except for advocates from the community. There's that organisation that's chaired by a former IAC member. Every Australian Counts organisation. How good are they? They don't listen to people. The Every Australian Counts organisation. So what do we do? How do we elect our own representatives to the NDIA and to the government? How do we do it? Instead of having so many different peak bodies, why can't we just have one body that represents everyone, that are elected by people with disabilities and their families, support workers, carers? Now, I did an interview last year for Carers Australia, carers saved this government, to their estimate, they estimate $100 billion a year they saved the government, carers. 100 billion. That's a lot of money. And what appreciation do they get from the government? Bugger all. Now, we are losing our rights bit by bit by bit. Every day there's a new law. A couple of years ago in Queensland, there was a young bloke called Jack Beasley who, 17 years old, got involved in a dispute in front of a nightclub and he was stabbed and he was killed. An absolute abhorrent thing to happen to any child. So his parents pushed for Jack's law. It allows police to go up to anyone they like and search them. Doesn't matter if they're not, if they're being, a law-abiding citizen or not. It doesn't matter. If the coppers want to go up and search you, they can wave a wand over and search you for no reason at all. Don't we have the right to access our community, to be unaccosted by government, an extension to the police as part of the government? To walk down the street and not have to be worried to be accosted by Mormons or Seven Days Adventists or Catholics or Jewish people or Islamic religions. Why can't we just walk down the street without being harassed by anyone? Now in Melbourne, the police can not only search anyone, they can go into your car and search your car. They can go through your handbag. They can pat you down. And people think we're not losing our rights? Where will it stop? What's the next thing that, male police officers will be able to pat down females in the street? Then the next step's a strip search, then a cavity search. Whatever happened to personal responsibility? Now, after the Port Arthur massacre, John Howard brought in new laws that banned automatic and semi-automatic weapons. That I could understand. But this buyback thing for weapons, what's it going to achieve? Do you think criminals are going to hand their guns in? I don't think so. Do you think law-abiding citizens who are licensed gun holders, licensed gun operators, are they going to hand their weapons in? I don't think so. Now, before I lost my sight, I grew up in the 60s and 70s. My family was really poor. And we used to walk around in the bush, because I live in rural New South Wales. We used to walk out in the roads with a strong torch or a spotlight and shoot rabbits on the side of the road for food. I grew up around guns my whole life. And all my friends did as well. And none of my friends, none of the people I know who have a gun or a license have ever done anything wrong. They've never knowingly broken the law. Yes, they got a speeding ticket, but other than that, law-abiding citizens wouldn't dream of hurting someone else. But their rights to be licensed gun holders, it's under threat. Because why? Because Albanese didn't do his job. He ignored the warnings. ASIO didn't warn the AFP or the state police that these potential terrorists had a gun license and weapons in their house. We are losing our rights every day. Now, I was talking to someone late last year, and they said, "Oh, well, the police can search my house. I've got nothing to hide. I've done nothing wrong." And that's an attitude a lot of people have. But what's next after that? Just think back to the brown shirts days in the 30s with Hitler. That started from an idea, and it started with supporters and followers, and it just grew and grew and grew until we ended up with Second World War. So please, people, don't try and tell me that this is never going to happen. It's already happened. It's happening now. We are losing our rights bit by bit by bit. And the government's relying on people sitting back and saying nothing. And if you do speak up, well, you're a racist or you're a bigot or you're prejudiced. Now, a couple of years ago, there was two major businesses, national franchise, who come out and were using facial recognition. Now, if I had known that, I wouldn't have set foot in their stores. We are losing our rights every day. And even my family, they don't see, and I point it out to them every time something happens. And they go, "Oh, well." And they go, "Oh, well," because it doesn't affect them yet. But the time it does, will it be too late? I don't know. What do we do? Do we just let it go? Then all of a sudden we have a revolution where people rise up and take control and dismantle the government? Or do we do it now and just say, we're not doing this anymore? Stop taking away our rights, infringing on our rights. Stop treating us like we're idiots. Because every politician does it. They treat us all like idiots. And just because they say something doesn't mean it's true. Even what I say. If you don't believe me, then please feel free, research it. Make up your own mind, but just don't close your mind off and say, "Oh, that's not true. That can't happen." It's happened so many times over hundreds of years. And we're just repeating the same old pattern yet again. Now, I'd like to see the IAC and the NDIA board abolished. And I'd like to see one board re-established, but we elect our own representatives, not be appointed by the government, who it's only going to put people there who just do what they're told to do. Now, if the Labor Party come to me tomorrow or today and said, "Would you like to work for the IAC, but you can't talk to anyone?" I say, I'd love to work for do work with the IAC, but you're not going to keep me quiet. I'll talk to who I want to talk to, and I'll represent those people because that's what I'm there supposed to be doing. You know, it's happening. It's happening to us now. We're losing our rights. We're losing our ability to make the government listen. They always come up with these knee-jerk reactions that does nothing in the long term. You look at Bondi. Okay, we banned every gun in Australia, only allowed the police and the Defence Force have weapons. So let's look, in the last couple of years, let's look at London, Paris and Melbourne. People go on a stabbing spree with knives. Or they get in a truck or a car and drive through a crowded marketplace in the name of terrorism. Or they use bombs, suicide vests. Banning something is not a cure-all. Now, my support worker and I, last year when Bondi happened, we looked on the internet, and from 1979 to the year 2024, sorry, around the world, there were just over 249,000 people killed in the name of terrorism. 93%? 93% of those terrorists were Islamic fundamentalists, ISIS, Hamas, just to name the top two. 93% of those nearly 250,000 people, 93% were Islamic fundamentalists. 93%. That's huge. On the news this morning, there was a carload of blokes trying to run down bloody teenage kids who are leaving their Jewish schools, young Jewish men. And they're throwing the Hitler salute at them and said, "Oh, we'll come back tomorrow morning with a gun." What the hell's going on? This government, this Albanese government's just lost control. They completely lost it. They've come out with his own ideology and he hasn't budged one thing. He's pushed us on the renewables at such a huge cost. It did nothing when he was warned about the anti-Semitism in this country. That's still happening. It happened this morning, for God's sake, on the news. It's still happening. Banning hate speech. Where's the cutoff point? You know, who decides what is and what isn't hate speech? I hate the Albanese government. Is that hate speech? Do I need to go to jail for 5 years because I hate Albanese and I hate the Australian Labor Party? And I used to be a member of the Labor Party. I hate the Labor Party government, especially this one. They've done nothing but hurt its own people since they've been in power. Should I go to jail for 5 years because I hate the Australian Labor Party? In my opinion, they're no better than the Nazi Party. Maybe that's 10 years worth of jail. I don't know. But look, we are losing our civil liberties. We're losing our rights. Every damn week there's something changed. And we've got to stand up and say enough's enough. Let's start us with something small. Well, it's not small. Let's start off with the NDIA. All the changes they brought in are supposed to be anti-fraud changes. And all it's done is to 1/3 of people who've had their plan reviews had their funding cut by 22.5%. I've got a friend who can't use his funding for community participation. You've got to be kidding me. Without that, he can't access his own community. Another friend of mine had his funding cut by $50,000. What is the IAC, the NDIA board doing about this? We never hear from them. You can't approach them and talk to them because they're not allowed to talk. This new, the ICANN framework that they're coming out with now, it's all licensed proprietary. That means it's not transparent. And with all those licensing costs, who's it go to? It's a company called CDS. It's supposed to be a non-profit. Anything this government does, any government does, I don't trust. I truly don't trust. But I urge people, if you don't believe me, please, you don't have to believe me, but do your own research. Go in with an open mind. Ask questions of yourself. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? What's this outcome going to be? At what cost is this outcome going to be for us? Don't just rely on others. Because everyone, including myself, I have my own point of view, and I'm a little bit biased when that comes to my point of view. I'm not saying I'm right or I'm perfect, far from it. But my life experiences have led me to this point, and I form my views and opinions in those life experiences, just like you do. But I'm asking you to look into it, to question it with an open mind. Not just rely on something that comes from someone else. Just because the government or anyone in power says something doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it true. You need to do your own research. And if you need help to research it, ask for help. There's no shame in that. I'm not university educated. Like I said, my life experiences have got me to this point. And I learned from a very young age never to trust anyone. No, I trust no one. Not one person in this world I trust 100%. Not one person. And I learnt that before I was a teenager. So please, do your own research. Look into it with an open mind. Question yourself. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? What's this outcome going to achieve? What's this? How is this decision going to impact me? Just do it. You don't have to sit there all day, every day. Just when you have a spare few minutes, just go on the internet and have a look around. Ask questions. Anyway, that's my rant for the week. But we are slowly losing our rights. And just because it doesn't affect you right now at this point in your life, doesn't mean it's not going to happen next week or the week after that. It will eventually catch up. And by then, it may be too late. Just think about it. All right, Chris, I think that might do us. Thank you for joining today. I really appreciate it. And please hit that subscribe button, share and like the video, and select the notifications. So every time I do a live stream, you're notified. And if you want to contact me, it's blindadvocate007@gmail.com. If you want to ask me a question, you want me to look into something, or you want me to raise a topic or an issue, just shoot me an email. I might end it there. Thanks, Chris. Okay, thanks, everyone.